Welcome to the Scottish Property Podcast. This is a show where we aim to educate, inspire and entertain through real life stories and interviews from people in the Scottish property community.
As always, thanks for listening and give us a follow on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Remember to join us at our monthly networking events on the first Wednesday of every month. Tickets are available on our website. So without further ado, we'll just cut straight into this week's podcast. Alex Walker, you're back.
I'm back.
You're back to talk about your 200 hooses.
By popular demand.
Aye.
Is this not the most talked about person that's been interviewed in the podcast?
Absolutely.
Everyone loves Alex's interview. So
loves it. I mean, last time it was, I don't know if it was through the pandemic or something like that anyway, but I think it was, and it was quite a ropey reception as well, so it was on your mobile phone, so we thought we'd take the opportunity to get you in the studio here, get you up in the big screen.
Looks amazing.
Get you up in the big screen telly. And people will be watching this now, mate. You're looking absolutely fantastic as well. Lost a bit of weight. You've got the teeth done, the tan done. What have you been? How have you been looking after yourself, mate?
Well, so I don't know why, but I'm a wee bit nervous now. I don't know why. I don't know. It's a light.
It's the big lights.
Camera. Well, before. So what I've been doing is I've been trying to look after myself a wee bit more, try to get fit, lose weight and all the rest of it. But what happens, and you're trying to get this balance, because when you're trying to grow a business, and we've all done it, when you're trying to grow a business, as you said earlier, Stephen, things get kind of thrown to the side. So family, out and about stuff, everything gets kind of thrown to the side, and you just concentrate on your business and you kind of push the business. But the thing is, then what happens is your fitness goes down. Yeah. But what I've noticed is, and I think, as I said, you guys maybe, I don't think you're there yet, but what happens is once you start getting kind of 50 and above, it's like an old car, things start to drop off. I wouldn't say they drop off, but they definitely don't work as good as what they used to. That sounds really dirty when I say that. But what I'm saying is you end up getting more indigestion, you get gout, you get sore backs, sore knees, sore this or that. So I've realised that I need to, so it's having that balance between building the business, keeping the business growing, and also keeping fit. Because there's no point in being like, super successful if your business, if your personal self is falling apart and you're at the doctors every other day and stuff. So I know this is not a health pod, but
I've started calling mine not a dad bod, it's a property bod or a business bod now. It's like, but I know what you're saying. You're right. It's that balance of
to try to get that balance between the keeping the business growing and pushing yourself, but also don't forget, don't on a run eating the donuts and eating the the quick food that'll do, and no exercise and stuff. Absolutely. So I'm trying to keep that balance.
You're always very much hands on as well, obviously, with your big portfolio. I mean, just to give the listeners a kind of idea of what kind of numbers we're talking about now, that you own in your portfolio, number of properties.
So we own 246 properties, and we're in the process of buying 4 more, and we're always growing at a steady pace. So I was talking to the accountant, and they wanted to know how many I'd bought last financial year, and it was 23 properties. So what it worked to is roughly about 2 a month. But what I would always say is it's not really the amount of properties you buy, it's about continually pushing and growing your business. Your business needs to grow between 10 and 20, ideally 15% a year. Now, if you've got 4 houses, that means you need to buy at least another 1 to get up to 5 per year. So you need to keep that business growing at a steady pace forever. That's it. That's your goal. You must keep the business growing, and it's like you guys have now. I mean, last time we spoke, we were in the middle of a car, and as you said, the reception, and now you guys have took it to another level, and it's that continuing. But you guys started the podcast in the middle of a pandemic, so anybody reading that would think these guys must be nuts. But it's good, because that's what people will think if you're growing your business, and if you're buying houses and interest rates are going like this, and and things like that, and ADT additional is going up as well. ADS, is going up as well, and you're still buying houses. People think, oh, you must be nuts, but then it's the opposite, because you're actually getting good bargains and good deals and things like that.
So it's good to see it from a positive point of view. You're not selling anything.
Oh no,
you're just buying. So it's nice to see it from that point of view, because everything we obviously everyone talk about on the podcast, it's always been they've been getting hit with the rise in interest rates. They've been getting hit with trying to get off short-term financing to of long-term finance, and there's always this bit of pain point in any industry and property we've been speaking to, but you're just going full steam ahead. I'm still growing it 15% a year and more.
That's it. And the way you have to look at it is, although there's a lot of white, you have to remember news are out there. ITV, BBC, Sky, they're all out there to sell news. That's their job. Yeah. Now, if there's a fight in Afghanistan, they'll blow it out of proportion in order to get people to, oh my God, look, they're all kicking off in Afghanistan. Well, they do the same with property. Oh my God, prices are going up, prices are going down, ADS. So you have to kind of take that white noise, I like to call it, and kind of push it at the side, because at the end of the day, we still live in one of the richest countries. I know we've got problems, but every country's got problems, but we still live in one of the richest countries in the world, and we're still in an industry that is up there with water, food, shelter. People need somewhere to live. And yes, you're going to have, if you were to sit down 10 years ago and read the things that they were going to bring out, you wouldn't get into property. So you know that the next 10 years will be similar. But you as a business and as a person and as a kind of up here a wee bit, you have to kind of work your way around the rules and regulations, like turning your business into a limited company and things like that, maybe going into serviced accommodation or build to rent and things like all these different strategies, if you want to call it that. But you have to evolve and grow your business, and the sweet spot is 15%. So no matter what happens, you still have to grow the business. So even if shit happens, but even if bad things happen, you have to grow that business. That's your goal.
That's really interesting that you really look at it from, running a business, because a lot of people look at property investment as just a thing that they do on the side. But obviously you've been doing this professionally for a long time now, and this has been your sole focus. Yeah.
So like a lot of businesses, I kind of way I did the same, because when I first started, it was, I had a job. I worked in Sky Television and I had a job, and for me, buying property was almost like, that's a good idea to make a wee bit extra money. But it's not till the penny drops that you start to realise, look, there's quite a lot of money in this, and you can build it. But it's like anything, there is a lot of money in it, but you still have to work for it. Nobody's going to say, there's some hooses for you, there's some, whatever. You have to get out and do the graft. You have to, get in there and work all the hours. Nobody's going to do it for you. That's the bottom line.
Are you diversifying from any other strategy except from buy-to-let, or is it still your sole focus?
Well, it's still my same sole focus, and to be honest with you, every now and again I do think about, I'm a great believer, every now and again I do think about different strategies, like buying maybe old developments and turn it into individual flats and things like that. But then I change my mind and I go back to what I originally do, which is just buying 2 and 3 bed terrace type properties, and I like them because they're almost like, I call them bread and butter houses. And what I mean by that, I've got a friend who's got houses in Edinburgh, and he's got a higher turnover of tenants. He also got a factor company, and he's got all these other overheads, like the constant close and things like that. I don't have any of that, and I also have more families, and they move into the local school, and
stay for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years.
I mean, literally, I've got 10. The downside of that is obviously because of the rent freeze. I can't do. But then again, I'll come back to rent freeze. But with the rent freeze, if you talk to your tenant and it's a long-term tenant, and you've got a tenant where you've replaced the windows, you've fixed the roof, you've done this, you've done that, they're going to turn around and say, do you know what, yeah, that's fine, I'm happy to pay a wee bit more in my rent. And there was a study done or something done recently, and I can't remember what the numbers were, I just remember reading it, and it turned around that something like 85% of all tenants are happy with their landlord, but the way the media describe it is that 90% of all tenants hate the landlords, but they don't. If you put a survey around all your tenants, they're not, great, fantastic, I've got a great landlord. So it's been able to work with your tenants with things. But so all my tenants are kind of long-term family, settled down, stuff like that,
Speaking to you before, you mentioned about, putting into the property as well, like obviously reinvesting a little bit into the properties. Is that still an important factor for you? To keep that, maintain that kind of standard?
Absolutely, and it's so important, because it's like anything. If you go to McDonald's, right, I'll use this as an example, but if you go to McDonald's and you get a rotten burger, you think, Jesus, I'm not going back there, or anywhere, I'm not going back there again. And I kind of why property's a bit like any business, I suppose. So you have to provide a good service and a good product, you know. So if we get a house back, right, and the carpets are knackered and the paint's needing redone and all the rest of it, then you need to get that done now before the new tenant moved in. And that's a regular. We've just got one just finished literally yesterday. I think it was yesterday, because they sent me the wee video, and that's just been done. So it's all been repainted. The new tenant will move in on the 1st of the month, and that's not unusual, but you have to provide a good product. If
I feel that's lost a lot of time when people are looking at deals. You know, people are not looking at that, having to put that back in that
long term.
Yeah,
over the next
I'm guilty
years.
of it. I'm guilty of it myself. You know, I look at the headline numbers and I think, like, what's the rent, what's the return on investment, and all the rest of it. But that return on investment is not taken in 15 grand refurb in
10 or 15 years time again.
Do you know what I mean? So it's something that I've been talking to people a lot about. And now that I'm a letting agent as well, obviously, you know, we get reported all the maintenance issues and all that.
Yeah.
And as soon as you hit a landlord with that, and they've just bought the property and they've been promised the 10% yield and all the rest of it, and then there's something breaks down, they're like, oh, wait a minute, I was told that I would get, you know, this was returning so much, you know, per year and all the rest of it. And now I'm having to spend £1,500 a boiler. But it's taking that approach. Like, you're going to need to spend money to make a bit of money.
That's it for long term.
That's it. I mean, I mean, if I break it down, I mean, we're replacing roofs and everything all the time. It's no damn, but I've got enough properties to support that, you know. So it's so overall. But I mean, I kind of put aside in my mind £100 per property per month. Right. That's what I put aside in my mind, and that's a good thing, mate, because even though you'll not spend £1,200 a year, as you said, 2 years later, that boiler, that's okay, I've got £2,400.
Would that equate to about 6-7% of the rent?
I'm not sure. I don't know, but it's just in my mind, I put away £100, so I'm putting roughly about 25,000 a month is maintenance. Is maintenance, and that does cover the roof. I mean, we just got a roof. Luckily, the council went halfers, and it was 25,000 roughly thereabouts. So it's 12.5 grand. I don't get that money off that individual tenant, but it's
your business can support it because of the way you've set up.
Yes, the way the business. But if you've only got 4 or 5 properties, then that's something you have to take into consideration, that you do need to think of these things, you know, like the new boiler. But put £100 aside and keep that aside every month for every single house, and it kind of works out. It's not an exact science, but if you use that as a guide point, then that's a good starting point.
And obviously we can't shy away from it. You know, you mentioned about the higher interest rates and all the rest of it. You know, how are you still, you've bought 20 plus properties over the last financial year. How are you still managing to make the deal stack, and still, are you just having to reduce your expectations on the cash flow? And is it very much just sinking that money in just for the long term for the most recent purchases?
Yeah. So on the most recent ones, we're still getting fixed rates for 5 years, and we're getting them at roughly around about 6%. You know, maybe a wee bit higher now, maybe 6.5, maybe 6.75. So the mortgage payment, if you like, is now went from say £250 a month to say £400 a month. However, the new rents, because it's a new property, has went from say £750 to £950. So although you're getting the extra on the money, and every time a tenant leaves, we're getting the extra money on the new rent. We can only increase the rent, as you know, so much, and that's where that kind of conversation with the tenant is. And as I said earlier, if you've got a good tenant, not good, if you're being a good landlord and they're a good tenant, they'll kind of accommodate and work with you, and that's what you want. But obviously on new properties, you can rent them for as much as you can.
You're finding it's almost kind of balancing itself out.
Yeah.
You're almost not too worse off.
That's it. And as well as that, I would say I'm a wee bit worse off. I'm not saying I was making the same profit, even though I've got more houses, I'm making less money profit. But what I would say is
that towards your growth which you were just touching on? Because if you didn't grow, you'd be making less money without the new ones that come in.
100%. Because I'll give you an example. If I've got a house, right, and it's coming up for remortgage, right, and it's at the end of its 5-year deal, and it's went from say, let's say £250 to say £400 a month, the next £150, and I've got the same tenant, and I'm making no money. But if I remortgage that house, that means I'm only making maybe 150 quid profit on that house. But I've took out 30 grand, I'm now putting that 30 grand in another house. I'm now making on that other house, I'm now making maybe 400 quid. So 400 quid plus my 150, I'm up to 550. Yeah. I was making 250. Now, sorry, I was making maybe 400 on this house, but now I'm making 500, but I've got double the amount of hooses. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So the numbers are still the same. So, and I kind of roundabout way, the government, I don't should take up, but in a kind of roundabout way, the system is forcing me to push and grow my business. I have no choice. So what's happening is my turnover's gone up. Oh my God, my turnover's gone up, but my profit's actually kind of gone down, but no. But it's got. But if I hadn't bought more properties, turnover would be like this. But because I'm buying more properties, the turnover's kind of doing this. If that makes sense, it's kind of doing this. So it's no gone up. So I would say anybody that's got any properties, say if you keep growing, then you grow your way out it. If that makes sense, you know.
So how? Sorry.
Are you still leveraging mortgages then often enough, or are you acquiring the cash from the portfolio and buying some?
Bit of both. Both. Because I'm at a level, I'm making profit, and that profit just goes back in. Because at the end of the day, there's only so much money you need to live on. Do you know what I mean? I mean, there's only so many holidays you can go, and only so many you can eat buffets you can eat. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if I've made X amount. I just kind of what I need to live on, and I don't have that mad lifestyle that you see on TikTok with all the youngins. So I don't have that lifestyle. I have a nice car, and and maybe a couple of, but that's about it. And so the rest of the money goes back into the business to keep that growth going, and then and the rest is from equity release. So there, my mortgage guy, he remortgaged 9 properties. I'll give you an example. He remortgaged 9 properties for me. We managed to bring the monthly payments down by 900 quid, and we released 130,000 in equity.
Right.
On 9 properties, so that'll then allow that door to open up and get
more deals.
More deals. And the reason why he got it for 900 quid less was because the interest rate was on a variable and it was going like this, and they fixed it here, but it was still going like, do you know what I mean? And that's how I managed to save 900 quid a month.
And out of those 200, what did you say?
246.
246. I'm glad you've got the specific number now.
Nick's loving this because Nick asks us every fucking episode.
If I got to that level, I mean, you're already at that level, Stephen, where I ask you how many you've got, and you're like, I don't know. I actually don't know. But
that's because I sell some. He doesn't need to sell any.
That's pretty good that you've got the exact number. So out of 246, so if you get 246 mortgages as well, or some of them.
Some of them are paid off. No many of them, to be honest. We only a handful, maybe got about 8 or something that don't have a mortgage.
That shit would scare the fucking
I can't remember if I asked this before. Did you lump any of them together and take like portfolio loans with like the one lender?
No.
To keep them all individual?
The way I've grown my business is because
keep on top of that.
See, the portfolio thing is quite a new thing,
right?
And I think it's a new thing because the eviction rules and things like that. So landlords are saying, "Oh, I can sell you," and because the ADS and things, so they're packaging them together and saying 6+, so they don't have to pay this ADS. So you'll see a lot more portfolios. But years ago, you seen the odd portfolio, but no, really, no. So my way of growing my business. Plus, I find that I don't know if you've found this, Stephen, because you've bought a few portfolios. Is that if you buy like a bunch, say buy 10 houses, you'll think, 7 of them are fantastic, 2 of them are, and 1 of them's like really bad. But when you're buying them individual, you can buy with like
you can select every single one.
You can stick with the areas that's good that you know well. And don't get me wrong, I mean, you know, I just. Glasgow's just a wee bit too, and Edinburgh's too expensive. So Glasgow's too far away. But where I live is right in the middle. So I just concentrate on my wee kind of.
See, new folk are going to be even in awe of this fucking man even more. Because I remember when I get a lot of emails from a letting agent, not even the stuff I manage, and I just think, why am I being a little bitch? Alex fucking manages all these properties he sells. And now he's just waiting to tell us he's got 246 individual mortgages he's refinancing every 5 years. Like, what's a day in the life look like for you? Like, you must be busy all the fucking time.
So this morning I was putting in my car to get MOT'd. I jogged back. I was sending a spreadsheet to Bill, my mortgage guy, last night. I was on the phone to 10:30 to my accountant. So it's not all plain sailing. So there is times where you think. But what I've found is you maybe find this, you guys, is you don't work 9 to 5, but you work constant. Do you know what I mean? It's not 9 to 5. If you want a 9 to 5 job, I'm not sure if this industry is for you. But if you I'm not sure that is it. But it is constant. But it can be stressful. But it can also be fun as well. This is fun,
mate. You see that? See that on the top of my head? That didn't happen until I started a letting agency. But
it's not doing out.
And
bad to me. I'm on the way.
Right, lose the hair, balloon it.
So I totally get what you're saying. Your mind, we'll all be the same sitting here. Your head is constantly full of stuff.
Yes.
And it's impossible to switch off. And
so I'll say something, and I've not told anybody, but I'll say it for the group. I've actually had to go and I wouldn't say a therapist, but a sleep therapist. And the reason why I went to a sleep therapist was because my mind was still
switch off the noise.
I couldn't switch off. So I started taking. I went to doctors and I got a sleep tablet. But obviously you don't want to start taking them because what they do is
sedate you.
Aye, boom, you're out for the count. And that's great, and you feel great the next day, but you know it's no long term. So what you have to do is, so I had to go and see it. So that's me giving you the bad side of it. There is, if it was so bad, I'd sell up and move on.
You've got that option.
Of course, I've got that option. But it's the reason why I went that is he's taught me how to take the bottles and God knows what else in my head, take them out. And relax and it's working.
My wife calls it the mouse on the wheel. If I sit there in bed like that and you just stare at someone, she goes, that mouse on the fucking wheel's going. And I'm like,
and you can't get it, and she wants it's in there, you can't get it out. So, but now I've managed it, and to be honest with you, as I said, I was a wee bit nervous about coming the day, and so that mouse was in my brain. Right, come on, because the worst thing could be coming here and feeling terrible if you're more of a good night's sleep. But now I'm actually, I've been wearing a Whoop thing, Whoop thing, and
what's a Whoop?
So it's kind of like a sleep thing.
It's
that's the wee battery that ran out. So you just put that on there.
Is that the one that monitors your fitness and your health and your exercise and all that?
And that's what I was saying earlier. Going back to the wealth and the health. There's a balance. When you're young, you kind of, that's no point. You want to make money, you want to get there, which is fine, which is all natural. And you have a young family, you want to push yourself. But then it gets to the stage that you realise you need to bring this level up as well.
I'm there right now. Like this very minute, I'm right there. I feel like your 20s or 30s, you pushed like fuck, you grafted your ass off.
100%.
Now I'm like, nah, I need to try and rein that back in again.
100%. And I still say to people, you have to work 100 hours a week. You need to put the hours in. You need to grind. You need to duck and dive. You need to do it all yourself. You need to do that. But once you kind of get to a level, you kind of, as long as you're a young, healthy person, once you get to a level, then you do have to think about there's a balance,
So who's on this team? Who helps you with it with this empire? Like because you self-manage them all, don't you?
So I do and I don't. So,
right.
So I've got a young woman that working with us called Cleo now, and so when a tenant leaves, she picks up the baton and we advertise an open rent and we use vouch and all that kind of stuff. So she's now picked up the baton. So when the tenant puts a notice in, boom, she's got the baton. She carries on, and then once the tenant moves in, it comes back to me, and then I look after the tenant with the maintenance and whatever else. And as I said earlier, your business has to evolve. So one of the things, so last year, right, we had, no disrespect, but we had a gas guy, right, and for 200 plus hooses, I think we had a couple of really bad freezy nights and all the boilers broke out once, and they're all phoning me, and I'm like, oh. So I was, because there's only me, and I'm like, well, no, I passed it on to the gas engineer. I'm not a gas, there's only much I can, there's nothing I can do, and they're waiting like days. We need heating and kids, and anyway, that's not happening again. So as a business, you have to evolve. So we've now got the houses under contract with Gasure, and they're 24/7, 7 days a week. So
that's taking a lot of pressure off you then?
Well, I've done a deal with them because so many houses. So we've done the drains, the plumbing, the heating, the hot water, taps, everything. And it's a really good number. And
the tenants have got that, they phone them if anything happens.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, they'll phone me and I'll just say, phone Gasure.
Because they've still got your number, obviously.
Absolutely. And that's available 24, as you say, you never switch off. So that's available 24/7.
You're good with the messages. You've got all the messages pre-typed out and all that. So you're ready to go and just say, like,
copy paste.
Absolutely. So and you can, in my notes in the phone, you've got the thingies for everything. It's copy, paste, copy. And it's right, it's like writing a letter. Nobody really, you write to a bank and they send you a letter. There's nobody sat down and wrote a nice letter for you. They've just copied it.
It's interesting, right? Me and Alex are actually kind of similar. We're actually quite similar because although obviously Alex fucking owns all his properties, I manage about the same number.
Right.
And I'm the main point of contact, all the tenants, because I've just literally started taking on staff in the last year. So I've got like one full time like you. But all the tenants have all got my number. So I'm at the weekend there dealing with all the shit. Do you know what I mean? And I wouldn't expect my employee to deal with that at the moment anyway. That might change because as we progress and build the business.
So, one of the things I use is a thing called fixed flow.
Yeah, I use that as well.
And use that as well. So that's really good. So and a lot of these things is all to do with numbers. They don't really work if you've got 5 houses.
Yeah.
You know, it's once you get to a level.
That stuff's good for taking it out your head.
Yes.
Aye. So like you know that everything, you can relax your brain a wee bit. So the systems, you know that everything is recorded in the system.
Yes.
So you don't need to keep it up there.
Absolutely.
Before it was all up there or in your notepad and your phone. Do you know what I mean? So
And what I do with that fixed flow, basically, so a tenant phones me, right, or texts me, I say fixed flow. So they report it on the fixed flow, I grab it, I look at it and I go, yeah, that's Dan the electrician, that's whoever, gas sure or whoever. And I just forward it on to them and I tell the tradesman, here's the job, and I tell the tenant, the tradesman will contact you within 3 working days. If they've not contacted you, let me know after 3 working days. So I kind of like marry the two of them together and then I can step back, job done.
So again, but I guess the big question is, why create the big job for yourself and why not just hand it to a letting agent and just pay the 10-12%? Is it because you love it? Like,
well,
could you not see yourself out of it?
I think it's, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I would never use a letting agent, right? And I've used letting agents before, but I think at the level, the stage I'm at, I don't need to.
Yeah.
If it was something,
you can employ the staff in house and.
Do you know what I mean? So Cleo, for example, she's on kind of contract work. She gets paid per tenant that leaves. It's not a salary as such. So she gets paid per tenant, and that's the way I run the business. And if you look at all the workers I've got for us, it's all contractors. Now, I'll give you an example why I use contractors. So at the start of the pandemic, at one stage I had 5 workers, a bit like yourself. I had all these, anyway, I had the guy who just did general maintenance and painting and all the rest of it. And he was a bit cheesed off that he was painting these hooses. And the reason, because he was pissed off because all his pals were on furlough. And I said, but you're going into empty hooses, what you on about? And he was kind of upset that he wasn't on furlough. And then what was happening
he was getting free money.
He was getting, and he was taking longer to do the jobs. He would paint a house and it would take him it would take him about a week and a half to paint a house, whereas before it only took him a week. And what I was finding the time I paid his wage is it was more expensive than, because you've got employers' national insurance and van costs and holidays and God knows what else. So what I found was using contractors, and I've kind of stuck with that now. So all the maintenance is done through contractors.
And if you use the same boys, I'm assuming you'll give you phenomenally good prices because they're getting a house painted every other week anyway.
Well, absolutely, and that's the thing. It's all about numbers again. When you start to when you've got regular work, they'll kind of look after you. You know.
Yeah. How even the process, like the contractor sending you an invoice for all these maintenance, even the thought of that fries my head on 246 properties. Does that go to your accountant and a bookkeeper, or is that all you as well?
No, it's not me. So I mean, it's quite easy because we have to remember we're walking about with supercomputers in my pocket, and so like for example, Darren, who's my electrician, been using him for nearly 10 years now, and he's really good. So what happens is he sends me his bill on a weekly thing, and I just look at it and go, yeah, that's fine, and literally log on online banking, bang, pay the money, job. It literally takes me as long as I've just told you it takes, which is like 2 minutes.
Does he itemise the jobs he's done over that week for you and what properties?
Yeah. So
do you then itemise it into your online bookkeeping software, and so you can track how each property's performing, or do you?
This is where the accountant comes in. I'll give you an example.
He's no superhuman, doesn't he, Dave? He outsources something.
He does nothing.
I was like,
So I'll give you an example of how to use tradesmen, and this is important for anybody listening because it shows you how I was doing it wrong and how I'm doing it right now. So go back a couple of years. So say I needed new carpets. What I used to do is I would just go down to the house and measure up the carpets. I would then go to the carpet shop and say, right, this is the amount of carpets I needed. And then they would say, right, okay, we can deliver them on Thursday. Say, I'd go, great. I'd go down to the house, be in, wait for the carpets to get delivered. Right, that's great. Then I'd get my rubbish guy to come out and lift up all the old carpets. Then I'd get the carpet guy to come down and put the new carpets down. And then I'd go down, I'd always have a wee hoover, no plunger, but I'd have a wee hoover in the back of my car, and I'd hoover up all the hoosey woosey. And look, that was 6 steps. right? Now I've got a guy that goes down, lifts up all the old carpets, takes them away, measures up, waits till the painter's done. Once the painter's done, he comes back, puts down the new carpets, hoovers up, sends me, takes all the cuttings away, sends me, he knows what I'm looking for.
One bill.
One bill, boom, job done. No, he's not much dearer. He's a wee bit dearer, but he's actually really good.
You're paying for that service of taking it 6 steps away for you.
Absolutely, and that's the difference with having you know the old system and having, and that can be multiplied by, you know, and even put the key box in the front of the door so you don't have to go and meet the guy and stuff.
I always find that for the first maybe 10, 20 properties that's the way I would do it. Because you'd almost penny pinch every single thing, so every cost was a prisoner.
Yes.
But when you've got a scale up portfolio, you look to try and value your time a little bit more and go, if I've got that many going on, I need to try and consolidate that into take these 6 jobs and put them in one.
Yeah, and that kind of thing as well is built up on trust a wee bit. As a wee bit of coming going, because on one hand the carpet fitter, for example, says, well, I'm not going to take the piss out of this guy because he gives me regular work, and vice versa, you're going to pay him straight away, you're not going to mess about. And sometimes the prices might be a bit flurry and you think, oh, do you know what, I'll just pay it. And other times you think, well, that was bloody cheap. And so you know, that long-term balance, but building up that relationship with any tradesman, because I get some new tradesmen that come in and I'm like, God, are you on drugs? You know, and you know, some tradesmen, I'm not saying there are a lot of good tradesmen out there, but some of them are kind of, you know.
Did you, like, because you've obviously been doing this for a heck of a long time, have you got quite a lot of properties in your own personal name then?
So I've got properties in my own personal name. I've got properties in my wife's personal name. We've got properties in the limited company. And we were talking about evolution, so we've literally just set up a new company for Janice. And to keep it simple, we just called it Janice's Homes Limited. That's so,
too many people get caught up in this whole business world and entrepreneurs and all the rest of it. People take months and months to come up with a name and a logo and the business card and that. And sometimes they don't even get off the ground.
I know.
Better just keep it simple,
keep
mate.
it simple. No matter what it is.
Janice's Homes.
Janice's Homes Limited.
Janice's hooses.
Yes. Because you always give that. You're always really good on the Facebook page when I go in and catch up. You've seen that people will ask questions, Alex will comment and say it. And one of the things I always notice is you'll always give the advice of fucking don't listen to the accountants, get some in your own name, get some of that. And I'm always like, that's the counter probably answer what most would say, but it's worked for you. I
think when you're starting out, just what you hit on the nail as well. You were saying, oh right, we'll come up with a logo and a name and spend 3 days just go buy a house, because at the end of the day the tenant's not interested, they just want to rent a house off you. So and people, buying a limited company, buying this way, and people's circumstances change and the laws are always changing. If you look at the last 10 years, it's like, you know, it's never, and the next 10 years will be the same. So what I'm trying to say, and look, they've just turned the tax on the limited company 25%.
Yes, right.
This is why he's not selling any houses, because if he's selling with the capital gains tax now, you'd be absolutely clobbered.
That's it.
Need to wait a few months cash flow to pay for the capital gains tax.
That's it. I mean, so as a business, so my advice would be to anybody that's starting out, or I'd say under 10, but some people say under 5, buy the first 5 or 10 in your own name. Just buy it and just move forward and set it up and get it running and stuff. You know, and I've always said that, get a letting agent, because the thing is, see when we...
What happens if they like it?
Sorry?
Because I always think that as well. What happens if they like it? Can you go and spend all this time going set up a limited company, get a website, get all this stuff, then go and get your first, you buy 1 or 2 properties, one property in a limited company, the fucking accountant makes more money than you do at the cash flow. You're making any money.
I know people that have got into property and got out just as quick.
Aye.
They've got 2 houses, and I'm out of here, and it's because maybe house number 2, they've not paid the rent and antisocial and da. Whereas if you're used to it, it's just like, I know how to deal with that. But if you're new to it, you don't know. This is new. This is kind of,
you have to be frightening. Be resilient.
But if you get to a letting agent, and I'm not just saying that, but if you get to a letting agent, what I'm trying to say is there's people out there that'll look for you, and they'll like, I can weed them out like you know, by using the right technologies and stuff. But if you don't know what you're doing, get a letting agent. Why take that risk? It doesn't make sense to me. I wouldn't. Anyway.
See, with your holidays, obviously you like your holidays and that, and you've talked about taking the skiing holiday and stuff like that. So, you know, how does that look when you go on holiday? You know, are you constantly on that phone, or you get Janice to kind of cover for you? She's going to have a great week, isn't she? when you disappear off screen.
No, I mean, because I carry my computer with me. I carry my business on my phone. So Cleo picks. So me and Cleo are doing, you know. So for example, she gets paid per job, right? Per job. But sometimes I'll do some of that job. But that's fine. I'm not going to kind of argue her. Like,
is that because you're a control freak? Because sometimes that's one of my downfalls. So
it could be.
Do you know what I mean? So I've employed somebody.
Over here.
I employed somebody, but I ended up doing half their job, and I'm like, wait a minute. But that's an issue that I've got, because that mentality, which you find a lot of business owners have, nobody can do the job better than you, sort of thing.
Nobody can do the business better than you, do the job better than you, because you own the business.
You're more passionate about it,
invested
interest in it.
Exactly. But I would say when I go on holiday, isn't it different from when I'm in Scotland? You know, I have my phone and I've got some emails, because don't forget I'm doing all the maintenance. But all I'm doing is grabbing that. I'm like a conductor. That's why I look at it, a bit of a conductor. So the job comes in, I take that job and then pass it on to whoever. Job done. And that's what I'm saying about the gas thing, because it was getting too much for me. As I said, last year I literally had, honestly, there was a big freeze or something. I made about, oh my god, it was like 30
I remember it. I was in Vietnam. It was over Christmas.
Oh yes. And it was like, oh my god,
there was one or two nights.
It was like minus like 40 or something.
That was when I was doing the flipping HMO. I was freezing my balls off in the heat in Aberdeen.
Is that when you had the big fire going out the back?
So I was thinking out the box. But the thing is, I mean, I could have done with that, some of the hooses. But it was so cold. It was almost like every. Oh my god! And
that broke you.
Oh, that broke me. Never again. So it's about. Right, we need a solution. Phone British Gas, they wanted an arm and a leg, and I've used them before. They've got a habit of like trying to flog you an expensive boiler and shit.
That's not covered.
That's not covered. So I went to a kind of medium-sized company. They've got a whole bunch of gas engineers, and they seem to be good. They seem to, so far, the winter will tell, but they seem to be good, and I'm quite happy. And I've got a good contact there. His name's Stuart, and he's like, don't worry, we'll get that. But what I've been doing is I've been drip feeding the houses to them at 30 a month.
So they're getting more and more if they
exactly, but so they don't have to do all the work all at once, because when they take a house on, they have to do their checks. So I don't want to get them like turning on hooses and too much. So it basically we're coming to the end of that, so which is great. So we're just in time for the winter. So it's about evolving. Is that the right word? It's about evolving the business to whether it be podcast or letting agent or development or whatever. You have to evolve it and keep it growing all times 15%.
So I'm just doing the calculations here, right? So you've got 246 times £200 a month average cash flow. That would be a conservative number. And it works out at 49,000.
You love your numbers. I love it.
Alec looked at that for anybody that's listening. He rolled his eyes like I wouldn't have got my bed for that.
50 grand. So this guy's making 50 grand a month. What are you spending your money on? That's like footballers' wages, man.
That's not football. You see the much there. That Messi guy's
Scottish footballers' wages.
That's better. Well, the money just goes back into the business. I've got a basic lifestyle. I don't when I go, I still like a bargain, same as everybody else. So I don't go, don't worry about it. I still like
shop at TK Maxx.
Yeah, I like TK Maxx. I like TK Maxx. I wouldn't. There's no way, and thankfully Janice is the same. But there's no way I'd spend $2,000 on. Where's my expensive watch?
Aye.
Do you know what I'm saying? There's no. That's it. Do you know, a quid that cost me? So I wouldn't spend that kind of. So although there's nothing, I'm nothing against them spending that kind of money on if they want a nice car, or if they like nice watches. That's all good. That's all good. But only buy it if you can actually afford it. Do you know what I mean? Don't buy it to look the part, even though you know the part. Does that make sense?
Which most folk do.
Most folk do. Most young folk do.
I saw an interesting video the other day, which I'll share, and it was saying about how luxury brands have all got two parts to their branding. It's like, just say for Gucci, for instance. So Gucci for the fucking peasants that can't really afford it, but they want to look like they can afford it. It's Gucci branded everywhere. It's in your face. It's look at me, I'm rich. And then they've got a rich brand that rich folk can afford, and they've not got a single logo on site.
Nothing.
But it's like a $3,000 suit or a $4,000 suit, and you'll see people wearing it that can afford it, but they don't want to know that they don't want to look rich. They don't want to appear rich. They just like it because it's a nice suit or a nice t-shirt. And I thought that was really interesting. That, like you say, is folk want to all buy something like that because they want to show off that they've got money and they didn't really.
I mean, I didn't understand expensive clothes, and I'm nothing against anybody that buys expensive shirts and trousers, whatever, trainers and stuff. But I don't understand it, because I get it with cars, because if I went out and bought a Porsche, you couldn't buy a copy Porsche and get the same experience, because the engineering that's went into that is unbelievable. But you could buy a copy T-shirt and you would never know.
Exactly.
And I'm not saying I walk about in fake stuff, but what I'm trying to say is, I don't understand that. I don't understand that. But go back to making 50 grand. It's all relevant. If you're making 50 grand, you're not going hey. It might be for the first wee while if you went from 0 to 50. But you have to remember you've been doing this for a long time. It's building up. It's building up, and a lot of the money goes back into refurbishing the hooses, putting new roofs in.
I mean, that's obviously like top line turnover.
That's headline figures, and that's the news. That's what news does.
Well, this is what Nick's got to do for the podcast. Come and listen to Alex Walker talking about he makes £50,000 a month on his property rental portfolio.
What are you boys going to, you car lovers? What are you going to do when obviously they ban petrol engines and all that, and
collect them as investments?
Absolutely. So we'll keep you right.
That's all I watch my morning is cars. Do you know that cars are actually free inheritance tax and capital gains? Did you know that?
I didn't know. I didn't know that.
Fucking blew my mind when I found it. And do you know, it's all justification to me to go and spend stupid money on a car, because I'm like, I can't afford that. I shouldn't really buy it. See now, my wealth, when it starts getting liquidated, I'll be getting put into cars. Because one, I'll enjoy it. I'll enjoy driving. I'll enjoy the collection. But if you can pass it down to your kids with no capital gains or no inheritance tax, it's fucking great.
So there's two things with cars that you don't get with a lot of things. So one is you get the capital growth, because you can't rent it out. So you get the capital growth, but as well as that, you get the fun. And there's a hard to put a price on that. Now, if you're a car lover, then that's great. You know, you'll understand. You'll think, you know. But there is a balance, like anything. I mean, if you're driving about in the most expensive car in the street and you're working in Asda, you know, then like overtime and not to afford the car, then that's a wrong car for you. You know. But if you're at a stage you can afford the car, and you know, you think, do you know what, I've worked bloody hard, and you know what, I deserve a nice car. Fuck it, I'm going to get myself a nice car. Then that's fine. Go get yourself a nice car. And you do.
I've had it 18 months. I still fight myself every month. I shouldn't hate that yet. I shouldn't be fucking buying a car.
I'm too young
and
for
I'm almost like, I'm going to sell it. Nah, I'm going to sell it every fucking month. And you fight yourself, but you're like a fucking burst mad bozzing for 22 years to grow up. Property business.
People don't see that. It's like the guy who does the 2 minute run or whatever it is. He spent 20 years building up to that 2 minutes to get there. But the thing is, you're the same. You spent 20 years to get that car.
Let's talk about that for a second, because you're a dad, right? So what age are your kids now?
Blaine is 19 and Josh is just turning 21.
And how are you looking at your kids now in terms of like their mindset and their work ethic and their kind of whole, you know, what are you seeing there at the moment? Because we see a lot of young people in our circle in the property, because a lot of young folk are getting sold this dream and it's easy money property and all the rest of it. So that's what I'm kind of going on. Have you adopted them into the business at all, or are they doing their own thing? Don't
know. So one's autistic, so he's limited to what he can do, so that's fine. And the other one is going to university and college. He's already done college and he's building on to university. My advice, and this is my advice to you guys as dads as well, is encourage your son to do whatever. If he says, I'm going to be a cleaner, that's great. You know, we were in a taxi in Italy just recently, and Josh is sitting in the middle, and the taxi driver says to Josh, so what do you do for a living? Now Josh works in the Japanese shop, just voluntary stuff, and Josh, and he does a bit of cleaning, and Josh doesn't look like a cleaner. He's a young, fit, good looking guy, and he says, oh, I'm a cleaner, and it was just the way he said it. It was quite funny. But what I'm trying to say is, I think it's important that you encourage your kids to do whatever they do. If they every dad wants, and mum wants a kid to be a lawyer, a solicitor, a doctor, or whatever, right? But my advice is just advise your kids to do whatever, encourage them to do whatever, and as long as they don't know doing nothing.
Can they find that passion, find what they're love in life?
It might be aeroplanes, it might be making pottery or something, I don't know. But
how do you see the gifting of the gifting of the I suppose keeping them for no being spoiled brats, like you've got the opportunity to give them what you want.
That is a tough one. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
I'll give you an example at the moment, right?
I could give you a crack at sorry,
so I've got an 11-year-old boy, right? And he's a smart kid, and he's like he's eyeing up this PC gaming thing, £1,200, right? And I'm like, well, I says, you'll not get that for Christmas. That's too much. You know, it started off a bloody Apple Watch last year, and I was like, that was 400 quid, and there's no way we're going that far. So I'm like, right, okay, here's a deal, right? I'm needing somebody to do social media videos, posts and stuff like that. I says, you're good at all that technology stuff. You would do this easily. I says, you could do one of these a day for me. I'll give you £5. It'll take you an hour. And you can post it, a couple of hashtags, edit the video, etc. Like that. He's like, oh, could see him taking note and all that. He's like, how much will that give me a week? £25 a week. How much a month? £100 a month. So that's going to take me a year, Dad, to get £1,200 to buy a computer. He was like, that'll take me a year. No way. He was wanting it now. This is the thing with the young people. They want it now. They're not prepared to wait. See, if that was me as a young guy, I was cutting the grass and washing the cars and for a bit of pocket money. I don't know about you, but for me, I would get maybe £5 for.
I think every generation is slightly more spoiled. Although you worked hard cutting the grass and going round the neighbours collecting ginger bottles and stuff, whatever you did. But the thing is, your mum and dad would probably look at you and thought you were spoiled. But you know what I mean? Every generation. My only advice is just, there's no easy answer, and especially when they turn teenagers. My only advice would be just try and encourage them. But any young person that's out there that's trying to get into property, the only thing I would say is these TikTok things, are really bad, because what they're doing is that they're making it sound as if, my God, look at that.
It's
Stephen, he's driving out in a Porsche, and Alex has got big fancy cars and all the rest of it. Oh, I'm getting into property. But we got that through hard work, not because of property, because property just happened to be it.
Be the vehicle.
It could have been restaurants, it could have been making tables, it could have been anything, the internet stuff. We done it because we worked. You done it because you worked hard. But if you hadn't worked hard, you guys set this up in the middle of a pandemic. If you hadn't done that, do you know what I mean? So I'm going to sit and watch Netflix. You wouldn't be here in the first place. What I'm trying to say is,
can I get a furlough? Furlough. I'm asking myself.
That's a key. It's a key.
This is it, because this my boy now is going against me. He's like, you're a workaholic, Dad. All you do is work. I was like, to pay for your fucking £1,200 computer.
We're having the same issues with Maya. Like, I just turned into Kelly the other night, because Kelly works full time, and she said to Kelly,
that's good.
Do you? Because Kelly's very keen on going back to work full time. I think after Maya was a couple of years, and she wanted to showcase that strong independent women can have her own independence. She can work, she can contribute to the household, and we make that clear that there's that. Fucking Maya turned around and says to her, I remember we're sitting in the hot tub on Sunday night, she goes, Mum, do you actually get paid for your work like that? And obviously I burst out laughing. So she's like, you fucking can't be encouraged. I was like, I wasn't encouraging it. It was just the fact that how a 7-year-old views life. Dad's working all the time, so he must make loads of money, and mum's not. And I was like, and it's like that same thing. You're at work, all you're doing is working. Like,
I remember Blaine said to us when he was about 10 or 12 or something, obviously, because we're maybe fees pals or something. Dad, are we rich? I said, no, we're comfortable. So I never want him to think that we're comfortable. And the thing is, we're a lot, and this is the thing, going back to what we were saying earlier. Everybody listening, if they're in Scotland or UK, everybody's a lot better off than 99% of the people. So we live in a really good country. There is lots of opportunity here, whatever you decide to get into, but you need to do the work. That's the key. If you don't do the work, and you work kind of like 9 till 5 and part-time and this, that and the next thing, just forget it. You might as well go and work in Asda. So you need to put the hours in.
No, it's the kids' influence with other kids that gets me. Is if you drop Maya off in the Porsche, you wouldn't get the kids going, oh, look at the Porsche, because they didn't have a fucking clue. But you drop them off in a Tesla, oh, your dad's got a Tesla. Oh, that shit, you're like, so the kids are like, so she's got that impression that you've got money. And I'm like, no, we're not. And you try to say we're comfortable, we work hard. But it's that you don't want that to create that entitledness. And I'm forever having that kind of discussions in that chat to see how, because you're only getting one chance at it. If you fucking make an arse, you fuck your kids up. You know what I mean? If we make an arse at property in the portfolio, we can sell it, we can change it, we can do something. But this is, Aye.
And you don't realise the influence they have, like these people, like the YouTube videos that they watch, they have far more influence over our kids than what we can
I
have.
could say something to Blaine, and I'm talking rubbish, but it's he's on TikTok or something.
You'll see me talking about property on TikTok or something like that. Like, that boy kids he's talking about that.
That's why that guy like Andrew Tate and all, Andrew
There's all the
Tate
young
and stuff
followers.
like that. I mean, that's scary stuff. Some of his opinions and views, and everybody should be allowed an opinion and all that, but the kind of extremes that he was going to, and how it actually, I could see it like wearing off my boy, and the stuff that he was saying. But Andrew Tate says this and Andrew Tate says that, and like Lisa was like, 'cause Lisa's a feminist, like she's like
right.
and he's obviously quite misogynistic and obviously just talking really derogatory to women and all that. And Lisa got hold of him, and she was like, this guy is full of shite. Don't ever allow that in our house ever again. And
No internet for you.
rightly so, he ended up in jail, didn't he? But I don't, it's just...
Well, that's it. I mean, this guy ended up in jail. I mean, you could follow this story and all the rest of it, but at the end of the day, these guys are kind of... I don't know. I just would take nothing to do with it. Stay away from these, because you're going to read all this stuff on the internet. It's like if you got cancer, or you could... Definitely, you could find what you want to hear, which is basically saying, "Oh, if you do this therapy, you don't need to get chemotherapy," which is a load of rubbish. That is a cure. I know they've found cures, but what I'm trying to say is you need to. You can't kind of follow the internet and the TikTok and so. But then if you're young and
it's a wonderful place, but obviously it's dangerous as well.
Yeah, dangerous. Let's bring it back to property. How was our fault? We started asking about the fatherly advice. What's the future hold for you in the portfolio? The same kind of growth as you started the interview talking about, the 15% growth? Is that going to be the goal year on year?
Yeah, so I mean, as a business, you're always trying to evolve and grow the business at a steady pace, and that's important. It's not about trying to reach for the moon, and if you do that, great, fantastic. If you manage to buy a big building and turn it into flats or something fantastic, and you've gave yourself a boost, but really you need to keep yourself growing at a steady pace, and that's
going to compound. I mean, it's compound already fast for you. I mean, it's going to compound even quicker in these next years.
If you asked me 10 years ago, could I run 240 odd houses with the technology that was there 10 years ago, no would be the answer. But as technology moves on, so I use WhatsApp videos and things like that for my maintenance guys. I send them a wee WhatsApp video, even for tenants and things like we can use Vouch, which is only £8 for reference checks. A lot of this technology is quite newish, but who's to say that if I was to grow the business at a steady pace and 5-10 years time or whatever, what technology will be about then? Will there be, I don't know anything about AI, I'm not trying to sound stiff a day, but would there be AI software that would take away a lot of that work? And you're like, oh, this is even better. So I don't know, and as long as you have to evolve and grow, there'll be new legislation, there'll be new governments, SNP will go up, they'll go down, Labour will come in, Conservative, and so on and so on. And you have to, as a business and as a person, try figure out a way round about that and keep yourself within the rules and laws and the UK government and so on. And as long as you keep your business growing, people have said to me in the past, what's your get out? Well, I'm going to stop buying houses when I'm dead. So that's my thing, mate. So
talking about death, what happens tomorrow if you drop down dead? Like, who gets these 240
fucking negative next
246 who gets the 246 headaches? And have you spared that thought? Have you got it set up? Because I know myself personally, like, I need to put a lot more time into getting things set up so that I do not leave a problem for...
So our own house is in a trust, so that's our own house, so that's covered anyway. But then the individual houses are in a limited company, so we've got a lot of houses in a limited company. Now that's quite safe because it's easy to transfer, but the individual houses is not. But what I would say is, as you get older, you're right, your mindset changes a wee bit, because like your mindset's different now from when it was when you didn't have any kids.
I can give a shit before.
That's it. So as you get older, so I'm 54, so I'm thinking more and more about that, and that's stuff that I'm thinking about. But and obviously I will be getting advice on that. I won't just like wing it, and hopefully that'll be all right. But at the end of the day, I mean, Janice said to me, well, what happens if you died and I met somebody else? I said, who gives a shit? I'm dead. Who cares? I'm not here. You know what I mean? So, and I kind of run a bit. So you're trying to cover yourself, not cover yourself, you're trying to kind of do the right thing, because that's what you're trying to do. Do the right thing so that when you pass away, that it's not a headache for whoever's left. So that's, but that's something. I'm not that old. No, I mean, listen, I'm not that old, Nick. Come on,
that wasn't an age thing. That could happen to anyone.
Absolutely. But as you get older, you do think about it.
Yeah, obviously.
So it is something that is something that it is something that I'm thinking.
Because yourself. I mean, when you start breaking it down and thinking about it, because none of us here think anything's going to happen to us.
Yeah,
but you think anything's possible, and then you think, fuck, that would be an absolute nightmare to go through having to take all this business and these properties on, break it all down, who owns what, contact the landlords, what do you do with the stuff, No,
I agree with you. I think it's one of the things you just have to evolve and
get the right advice.
Get the right advice for the right people, because it's not it's set in stone where
you're right. You kind of said that before about the people that start out. If you get bogged down in all the details of that, you wouldn't get moving in the first place. But when you establish a business like yourself, then you can start looking at mitigating that, because you've got something worth protecting and something worth handing down.
And it's like paying tax. People are, should I set up a limited company? Should I take my name? Could I pay more tax? Don't worry about tax. Get the business up and running. Make money. Then worry about
that's a good point.
And then so that's interesting. Something really sticks in my head when I started up my letting agency, right? Arc Property. I basically picked the name from there's a bridge in Glasgow called the Arc Bridge, the Clyde Arc, so that's where I got the name, right? Didn't take a huge amount of time thinking about the name. Somebody called me up that followed me on social media, who's another letting agent, right? And he was like, he'd been following me, and I'd had a couple of conversations with him on it. He's like, this, I've been on and I've checked out, there's another Arc Property down in England. Now, I've looked into this, and you could get into serious bother there because they've got that trademark name or whatever. You're putting yourself in a position where you could get sued for that and all the rest of it. I've got this guy on the phone, and I'm like, you're actually more interested in my business than I am myself. I'm like, it doesn't matter, mate. I'll just go ahead with it. And I've been trading now for 6 years, and the other Arc Properties never come knocking yet.
It wouldn't bust.
I don't think so. People get too bogged down in these little minute. That's the point you were making.
Well, let me wrap up with a bit of tips for the listeners. You're a high performer. So if you got any advice for people that are getting started out, that want to scale up a property portfolio or scale into a property business quickly, or any business for that matter, have you got any tips for them to perform at how you perform, how you manage to operate?
I would say the main things to do is keep it simple. Don't complicate it. Keep it simple. Keep the business growing at a steady pace. You need to work hard. Get rid, and I've said this before, and it isn't rocket science. Get rid of the expensive watches and things. Get rid of anything you don't need. And I know it's difficult if you've got a young family and you're trying to push yourself and all the rest of it, but you just have to sacrifice, and it doesn't matter whether it's a restaurant or property business. You just need to put the work in. I wish there was another. I wish that there isn't a big red button that I could bring me and all the glitter comes down for the ceiling. It doesn't exist, because if it did, it'd be worth £1 million, and actually there's a big red button, you can have a shot at it. Bang, thanks Alex, get your Nick, boom. It doesn't exist. What does exist is perseverance, hard work, sacrifice. Make it sound all really, but if you do it for say 5 years, just say, look, I'm going to listen to that guy, that guy. I'm going to do it for 5 years. Say after 5 years, you should be in a position where you're quite comfortable. 5 years. So 5 years of hard work, and then you'll be comfortable. Yeah. But it's whether you, because most people won't.
It's that thing that people will look at that and listen to that advice, which is fantastic advice, and go, fucking 5 years, selling my watch, can I look rich to my pals, can I get that house, can I get that holiday home? And they won't sacrifice that 5 years, but they'll quite happily take a wage for 35, 40 years. And
yeah, that's it. And when I say sacrifice, when your mate phones you up and says, oh, we're going to the pub tonight, you fancy coming Friday night? No, I'm working.
House to paint.
I've got a house to paint, I'm working, and I've got this today and I've got that today. And really, I mean Janice always, and I kind of way, friends that have known me a long time, for example, Janice always said I missed Josh when we first started walking, and that's serious. I missed all that, because I was always working. But my friends that know me quite well have said, although you workaholic, it's paying off now.
Yeah.
And it's paying off now. So my friend who worked, I used to work in Sky, and I would work from 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock 7 days a week. Just Janice used to say when the kids were really young, she used to say, I feel like a single mum, because you're never there, you're always working. But my friend used to say, I'd come in at work at 9 and I'd go home at say 6 o'clock, and I'd come in the next day at 9 and you're still there. It looked like you never went home because you were always there. But what I'm trying to say, these are the sacrifices. No, obviously maybe I took it too extreme, but you don't have to take it too extreme. But the key is hard work.
And it depends what you want. Do you want 246 hooses or do you want 10?
Depends what you want out of life.
There's a whole lot of difference.
Depends what you. If you don't work hard, you might be lucky and have a rich dad, and they'll. You know, but you really need to put the hours in, you know.
And just lastly, obviously, you don't put, you're not on there on social media saying I've got 246 houses and all that. So you don't do that sort of stuff, right? And you're very grounded. The only reason you come out with these numbers is because I'm asking them, basically. Do you know what I mean? So, like, for you to give all that information, really appreciate it. But I mean, looking at it in Scotland, you must be one of the biggest private landlords in Scotland at that level. I'm not aware of many. So it's an achievement.
Yeah, I think Graham Carlin, in Dundee's probably the only one I can think of that's got more. So it must be one of the.
I'm sure there's a few under the radar, but if you're listening there and you can beat Alex Walker's 246 hooses, then get on
a competition.
Get on the podcast here. No, it's been brilliant, Alex, and thanks very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks a lot, mate. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Cheers. Thanks.